The galaxy believed it knew humanity. For 50 years, the people of Earth had walked among the stars as the youngest species in the galactic concord. They smiled at insults. They accepted bad trade deals. They bowed their heads when the elder races spoke. Every alien species looked at humans and saw exactly what humans wanted them to see. A weak, grateful, harmless people, happy to have a seat at the table of galactic civilization. Ambassador. Cho Temin stood in the Great Hall of the Concord Council. Around him, representatives from 200 species watched with bored expressions. The Velthari delegation sat at the highest platform, looking down at everyone else. Their leader, High Sovereign Keth, had skin like polished silver and eyes that held nothing but contempt. The Velthari Dominion requires 3 of your colony worlds, Keth announced. His voice echoed through the chamber like a judgment. In exchange, we will protect your remaining territories from those who might wish you harm. Taman kept his face humble and confused. High Sovereign, we are grateful for your concern. But these colonies hold 2 billion of our people. Surely there must be some mistake. Keth laughed. Several other alien delegates laughed with him. There's no mistake, human. You are new to this galaxy. You do not understand how things work. The strong protect the weak. The weak pay for that protection. This is the natural order. I see, Taman said softly. May I have time to consult with my government? You have 3 days, Keth replied. After that, we will take what we require. With or without your agreement. Taman bowed low. Thank you for your patience, High Sovereign. He walked out of the chamber with his head down. Other delegates whispered as he passed. Poor humans. So young, so naive. They had no idea how lucky they were that the Velthari only wanted 3 worlds. Other species had lost everything, but none of them saw Taman's face as he walked away. None of them saw the small smile that crossed his lips. In a small room near the human embassy, Lieutenant Commander Park Yuna waited. She wore the simple clothes of a trade representative, but her real job was far different. She had spent 15 years among the aliens, learning their secrets, mapping their fleets, counting their weapons. And she had been waiting for this day. Temi entered and closed the door. They want 3 worlds. Which ones? Yuna asked. The mining colonies. The ones near Velthari space? Yuna nodded slowly. Those colonies were chosen for a reason. Our ancestors knew this day would come. Taman removed his humble ambassador robes. Underneath, he wore a different uniform. It was black with silver trim, covered in metals that bore symbols no alien had ever seen. Symbols from a time before the Velthari existed, before any of the so-called elder races drew their first breath. Send the message, he said. Yuna activated a device that looked like a simple communication unit, but the signal it sent did not travel through normal space. It slipped through dimensions that the Galactic Concord did not know existed. The message was short, just 5 words in an ancient human language. The moon rises red tonight. On the dark side of Earth's moon, deep beneath the surface, Admiral Kong Do-yoon received the message. He was an old man with gray hair and calm eyes. He had served in the human military for 45 years. He had trained for this moment since he was a young officer. His father had trained for it. His grandfather had trained for it. 7 generations of his family had kept the secret. Waiting for the day when the message would come, he stood before a massive door made of metal that gleamed like starlight. No one in the galaxy could identify this metal. It did not exist in any database. It had been forged before the stars that lit Velthari space had finished forming. Doyen placed his hand on a scanner. The door recognized his DNA, his heartbeat, his very thoughts. Identity confirmed. A soft voice said, Admiral Kong Do-yoon. Authorization level, absolute. Welcome home, Admiral. The door opened. Behind it lay a cavern so vast that its far end disappeared into darkness. But as Do-yoon stepped inside, lights began to turn on, one by one, then dozens, then hundreds, then thousands. Ships filled the cavern, not the small, modest vessels that humanity showed to the galaxy. These were warships of impossible size and terrifying beauty. Their hulls were made of the same strange metal as the door. Their weapons were things that the Galactic Concord could not imagine. Each ship was a work of art and a promise of destruction. Doyan walked among them slowly. He knew every ship by name. He knew their histories. He knew the wars they had fought before the Velthari were born. Before the Olvani built their first cities, before any species in the Concord looked up at the stars and wondered, these ships were 12,000 years old. Some were older. They had slept here, waiting, dreaming of the day when humanity would need them again.
Old friends,
Doyan whispered. I'm sorry to wake you, but they gave us no choice. Deep in the ships, ancient reactors began to hum. Power flowed through systems that had been dormant for 200 years. Computers older than civilizations processed their first new data in centuries. Doyan reached a platform at the center of the cavern. From here, he could see everything. 40,000 ships, each one capable of destroying entire fleets. Each one carrying weapons that the galaxy had forgotten existed. His communication device buzzed. A face appeared on the screen. Fleet Admiral Yoon Ji-ho, commander of the secondary fleet hidden in the asteroid belt.
Oh, we received the signal,
Ji-ho said. All bases report ready. 47 locations across the galaxy. Ships are waking. How long until full activation? 6 hours for the primary fleet. 12 for the reserves. Doyan nodded. The Velthari gave us 3 days. We will not need 3 days, Sir Ji-ho said carefully. Once we reveal ourselves, there is no going back. The galaxy will never see us the same way again. I know, Doyan replied. Our ancestors hoped this day would never come. They hid these ships. They erased our history. They let the younger races believe they were the masters of the galaxy. They did this because they believed in peace. They believed that kindness and patience could build a better universe. He looked out at the waking fleet. The Velthari have proven them wrong. We gave the galaxy 50 years to show us who they were. They showed us cruelty. They showed us arrogance. They showed us that the strong take from the weak, without mercy or shame. Doyan's eyes were hard. Our ancestors built these ships to protect the innocent. The Velthari threaten our people. They threaten our worlds. They believe we are weak because we chose to be kind. They will learn the truth. Kindness was a gift. They have refused that gift. Now they will meet the humans that our ancestors feared we might become. He gave his first order. Wake them all, across the galaxy. In hidden bases buried beneath moons, and inside asteroids and floating in the empty void between stars, ancient ships opened their eyes. Humanity was done. Pretending Captain Lee Sunwoo walked through the corridors of the Eternal Vigil, his boots made soft sounds on floors that had known the footsteps of his ancestors. The ship was 12,000 years old. It had fought in wars that were now legends. It had protected humanity when the galaxy was young and wild and full of terrors that modern species could not imagine. And now it was waking up. The lights came on as Sunwoo walked. The ship knew him. It recognized his bloodline. 40 generations of his family had served aboard this vessel, keeping it ready, passing down the knowledge from parent to child. Good morning, Captain, the ship's voice said. It was warm and gentle, like a grandmother welcoming a child home. Good morning, old friend, Sunwoo replied. How do you feel? All systems are operational. Weapons are charged. Engines are ready. I have been sleeping for 200 years, Captain. I dreamed of stars. Sunwoo smiled sadly. I'm sorry we had to wake you. Do not be sorry. I was built for this. We all were. In the engine room, Chief Engineer Beak Hanna moved between reactors that hummed with power no species in the Concord could understand. She was one of the few who truly knew how these ships worked. The knowledge had been passed down through her family, taught in secret, protected from being forgotten. The reactors used energy from the space between dimensions. They pulled power from the fabric of reality itself. A single reactor could produce more energy than the entire Velthari fleet combined. The Eternal Vigil had 12 reactors. Primary power at 90%, Hannah reported to the bridge. Secondary systems, coming online, will be at full capacity in 2 hours. Good work, Sunwoo replied through the communication system. What about the weapons? Hannah looked at the weapon status display. The numbers were almost frightening. The main beam can fire at any time. Yield is, well, the same as always. One shot can crack a moon. Let's hope we don't need to crack any moons today. In the command center on Earth's moon, Admiral Kung Do-yan watched status reports flow across his screens. Across 47 hidden bases, the ancient fleet was waking. Ships that had slept for centuries were stretching their wings. Crews that had trained in secret their entire lives were finally taking their places. Fleet. Admiral Yoon Ji-ho appeared on the main screen. Behind him, the asteroid base was alive with activity. Ships were launching, forming into squadrons, preparing for what was to come. Primary fleet is at 80% readiness, Ji-ho reported. We'll have 2,000 ships ready for the first wave. The Velthari have 500 ships at our border, Do-yan said. Ji-ho allowed himself a small smile. Sir, with respect, we could handle them with 50 ships. 2,000 is excessive. This is not about defeating them, Do-yan replied. This is about making a statement. The galaxy needs to understand what they have awakened. They need to see our full strength. Otherwise, someone else will try what the Velthari tried. He pulled up a historical file. Images appeared on the screen. Ancient images. Images from 15,000 years ago. Do you know why we hid? Do-yan asked. Ji-ho shook his head. He knew some of the history, but much of it was classified beyond his level. 15,000 years ago, humanity ruled a peaceful federation spanning half the galaxy. We were not conquerors. We were guides. We helped younger species grow. We shared technology. We believed that cooperation was better than domination. He showed images of beautiful cities on 1,000 worlds, images of humans and other species working together, images of peace. Then something came from outside the galaxy, something hungry, something terrible. We called them the Devourers. They ate stars. They consumed entire civilizations. We fought them for 3,000 years. The images changed. War, destruction, planets burning, stars going dark. We won, Do-yan continued. But the cost was terrible. Half our worlds were destroyed. Billions died. And we realized something horrible. We had become too strong. Our technology, our weapons, our ships, they were designed to fight gods. With the Devourers gone, we were the most dangerous thing in the universe. He showed one final image. A council of human leaders gathered in a great hall. Our ancestors made a choice. They would erase humanity's history. They would hide the ships. They would let the galaxy forget what we were. Younger species would grow without living in our shadow. And if those younger species built a galaxy of peace and cooperation, humanity would remain hidden forever. We would be the silent guardians, watching from the dark, protecting without controlling. Do-yan's face grew hard, but they also prepared for the alternative. They knew that younger species might not choose peace. They knew that new empires might rise, cruel and hungry and violent. So they hid the ships, but they did not destroy them. They created secret bloodlines to maintain them. They left instructions for the day when humanity might need to reveal itself again. The Velthari Ji-ho said quietly. The Velthari are not special, Do-yan replied. They are simply the latest in a long line of tyrants. They have conquered hundreds of species. They have enslaved billions. They have killed millions who resisted. And now they threaten us, believing we are too weak to fight back. He looked at the fleet status display. Numbers climbed steadily as more ships came online. Our ancestors hoped we would never have to use these ships again. They hoped the galaxy would choose kindness. That hope is dead. The Velthari killed it. And now, they will face the consequences. On the bridge of the Eternal Vigil, Captain Sunwoo received the final briefing. Around him, his crew sat at stations that their families had maintained for generations. They were farmers and teachers and engineers in their public lives. In secret, they were the guardians of humanity's oldest weapon. All ships report ready, the communications officer announced. She was a young woman named Oh Min-gi, who had learned to operate these ancient systems from her grandmother. Sun Woo looked at the main display. Stars filled the screen. Somewhere out there, Velthari warships were gathering at the border. Confident in their strength, certain of their victory, they had no idea what was coming. Open a channel to all ships, Sun Woo ordered. The channel crackled to life. 40,000 ships waited for his words. This is Captain Lee Sun Woo of the Eternal Vigil. For 200 years, we have kept the watch. For 200 years, we have hoped that we would never be needed. That hope has ended. The Velthari Dominion has threatened our people. They believe we are weak. They believe we are young. They believe we will bow to their demands. He paused, looking at the ancient symbols carved into the walls of his bridge. They told the story of his ship's long history. Wars fought. Battles won. Innocence protected. Our ancestors built these ships not for conquest, but for protection. Today, we honor their purpose. We will protect our people. We will protect our worlds. And we will teach the galaxy a lesson it will never forget. His voice grew stronger. We are not the new species they think we are. We are humanity. We walked among the stars when the Velthari were still learning to make fire. Our ships have fought enemies that these young empires cannot imagine. And today, we remind the galaxy what we really are. He gave the order that would change history. All fleets advance. Across the galaxy, ancient engines roared to life. Ships that had slept for centuries began to move, and the stars themselves seemed to tremble at what was coming. The awakening was complete. Humanity was going to war. High Sovereign Keth stood on the command deck of his flagship, the Pride of Velthor. 500 warships surrounded him, the greatest fleet the Dominion had assembled in a century. Before him, on the display screens, hung the 3 human colony worlds he had come to claim. Any response from the humans? He asked. Nothing, High Sovereign, his communications officer replied. They've gone silent. Keth smiled. They are afraid, as they should be. Begin the approach. We will take what we came for. The fleet moved forward, engines burning bright against the black of space. Keth had done this many times before. The pattern was always the same. Smaller species would protest. They would beg. They would try to negotiate. And in the end, they would submit because they had no choice. Then the sensors screamed. High Sovereign. The tactical officer shouted. Massive energy signatures appearing. Multiple locations? I've never seen readings like this. Show me, Keth ordered. The display changed, and Keth felt his blood run cold. Ships were appearing from nowhere. They did not jump in through normal hyperspace. They seemed to fold out of reality itself, emerging from dimensions that should not exist. And they were enormous. The smallest was twice the size of Keth's flagship. The largest was so big that the sensors could not calculate its full dimensions. Keth whispered. The tactical officer's voice shook. 2,000.
No, wait.
More are appearing. 2,500. 3,000. They're still coming. Keth stared at the screen. The human ships were unlike anything in any database. Their hulls gleamed with strange metal. Their weapons glowed with energy that made his instruments go haywire. And they moved with a grace that should have been impossible for vessels of that size. This is not possible, he said. The humans have no such fleet. They have nothing like this. High Sovereign, the communications officer said quietly. We are receiving a transmission. From the human vessels, put it through. A face appeared on screen. A human woman in a black uniform. Her eyes were calm and cold. Velthari Fleet, she said. I am Lieutenant Commander Park Yuna of the Human Defense Force. You have entered space claimed by humanity. You have threatened our worlds and our people. You were warned. You did not listen, she smiled. It was not a friendly smile. You believed you knew what humanity was. You were wrong. Turn back now or face the consequences. Keth found his voice. You dare threaten the Velthari Dominion? We are the greatest military power in the galaxy. We have conquered 1,000 species. You have conquered children, Yuna replied. You have never faced anything like us. Final warning? High Sovereign. Turn back. Keth's pride burned hot. He would not be threatened by humans. He would not show weakness before his officers. All ships attack formation. We will teach these humans their place in the galaxy. On the council world of Athenra Prime, Ambassador Chotiman entered the Great Hall. Representatives from 200 species watched him with confusion. The emergency session had been called without explanation. Rumors were flying. Something was happening at the human border. Something impossible. Taman walked to the central platform. He was not wearing his humble ambassador robes. He wore the black uniform of a human military officer, covered in medals from wars that no living alien remembered. High Sovereign Keth's image appeared on the main display, transmitted from his flagship. Counselors, I demand that you punish this human aggression. They have deployed a massive fleet. They are threatening Velthari ships engaged in a legitimate territorial negotiation. Counselor Myra of the Olvani leaned forward. The Olvani were one of the oldest species in the Concord, their history stretching back 8,000 years. Ambassador Cho, is this true? Has humanity deployed a war fleet? Temin smiled. Yes, the chamber erupted in noise. Aliens shouted and argued. How could the humans have a war fleet? They were the youngest species. They had almost no military. This made no sense. Taman raised his hand. Slowly, the noise died down. For 50 years, we have walked among you, he said. We smiled when you insulted us. We accepted bad treaties. We let you believe you were superior. We did this because our ancestors hoped that you would prove worthy of the gift we gave you. Gift? Counselor Mira asked. What gift? The gift of believing you were the elder races. The gift of believing you were the masters of this galaxy. The gift of not knowing the truth. Taman pressed a control on his uniform. The main display changed. It showed images older than any species present. Images of a vast civilization spanning half the galaxy. Images of technology that made Velthari science look primitive. Images of ships, the same ships now confronting the Velthari fleet. 15,000 years ago, humanity ruled a federation of 100,000 worlds. We were ancient when your ancestors were learning to walk upright. We fought wars against threats you cannot imagine. We built technologies you cannot understand. And then we chose to disappear. The chamber was silent. Every alien stared at the images in disbelief. We erased our history. We hid our ships. We let younger species rise, hoping you would build a galaxy of peace and cooperation. We watched from the shadows as you grew. We watched as the Velthari conquered and enslaved. We watched and we hoped that someone would stand against them. No one did. You all bowed to their cruelty. Counselor Mira's hands trembled as she pulled out an ancient text. It was a forbidden book, a collection of legends that most species dismissed as myth. She turned to a page and held it up. The image showed a ship design identical to the human vessels now filling the sensors. The first walkers, she whispered. The legends say they ruled the stars before time. They were gods who chose to sleep. Not gods, Taman said. Just humans. Just people who made a choice to give the younger races a chance. And you failed. The Velthari failed. They threatened our people. They tried to take our worlds. They believed we were weak because we were kind. He looked directly at Keth's image on the screen. We are not weak. We were never weak. We simply chose not to use our strength. That choice is over. Keth's face was pale. This is a lie. Trick. Human propaganda. Then call your fleet. Taman replied calmly. Ask them what they are seeing. Ask them to scan our ships. Ask them to analyze our weapons. They will tell you the truth. We built these vessels before your empire existed. We built them to fight enemies that would destroy your entire civilization in a day. You are not a threat to us, High Sovereign. You are an inconvenience. On the border, the Velthari fleet opened fire. 500 warships launched every weapon they had at the human vessels. Missiles flew. Energy beams blazed. It was the most powerful attack the Dominion had ever unleashed. The The human ships did not move. They did not need to. Their shields absorbed everything without a flicker. Then the eternal vigil fired back. A single beam of white light, bright as a star, reached across space. It touched 3 Velthari dreadnoughts, and they simply stopped existing, not destroyed and made. Their atoms scattered across dimensions. There was no explosion, no debris, just absence where ships had been. On Athenra Prime, the sensor data played across the main display. The entire council watched in horror. One shot. 3 ships, gone. Keth's voice cracked. What are you? Lieutenant Commander Park Yuna answered him on all frequencies. The entire galaxy heard her words. We are humanity. We are older than your empires, older than your histories, older than your oldest myths. We gave you 50 years of peace. You answered with threats. We let you believe you were strong. You answered with cruelty. Now you will learn what we learned long ago. The galaxy is not ruled by the strong. It is protected by those who choose to use their strength for others. She paused, and when she spoke again, her voice carried the weight of 15,000 years. The Velthari Dominion has declared war on humanity. We accept. In the council chamber, Counselor Mira looked at Ambassador Cho Temin with new eyes. What happens now? She asked. Teeman's answer was simple. Now, the galaxy learns to be better. One way or another, the Battle of the Red Expanse began with fire and ended with silence. Admiral Kong Do-yeon watched from the bridge of the Memory of Earth, his flagship. Around him, 2,000 human warships held formation. Before them, the Velthari fleet burned and broke and died. Another squadron is attempting to retreat, his tactical officer reported. They are trying to reach the hyperspace corridor. Don't let them. Do-yeon ordered. Captain Lee. Sunwheel's voice came through the communication system. The Eternal Vigil led the vanguard, cutting through Velthari formations like a knife through water. We have them, Admiral. They can't run. Human ships moved with precision that seemed impossible. They had trained for this for generations, in hidden bases, in secret programs, preparing for a day they hoped would never come. Now that day was here, they were ready. Commander Shin Yunji sat at the tactical station aboard the Memory of Earth. Her hands moved across the controls with cold efficiency. She tracked enemy ships. She coordinated attacks. She directed the destruction of the fleet that had threatened her people. 30 years ago, her parents had lived on a colony at the edge of human space. The Velthari had come then too, demanding tribute. When the colonists could not pay, the Velthari burned the colony. Yunji had been 7 years old. She had hidden in a storage container while her parents died. Now she was here. Now she was watching the Velthari pay for their crimes. 3 ships trying to flank us from below, she reported, her voice steady. The Eternal Vigil has the angle. Sunwoo's ship turned with impossible grace, its main weapon charged, glowing with light from before the stars were born. 1 shot. 3 ships. Gone, High Sovereign Keth screamed orders on his bridge. His flagship was burning. Half his fleet was destroyed. The humans had lost nothing. Not 1 ship. Not 1 fighter. His most powerful weapons could not scratch their shields. He shouted. All ships fall back to Velthari space. The retreat began. But humanity was not done. Space itself twisted around the Velthari fleet. The human ships were doing something impossible, folding reality, creating a bubble that trapped the enemy vessels. There was nowhere to run. Hyperspace was blocked. Normal engines were useless. The Velthari were fish in a net. Surrender, Do-yeon said. His voice was broadcast to every Velthari ship. Power down your weapons. Release your crew to escape pods. Your ships are forfeit. Your empire is over. Keth's face appeared on the screen. He was shaking with rage and fear. You cannot do this. The Concord will not allow it. Other species will unite against you, will they? Do-yeon asked. He signaled to his communications officer. Send it. Across the galaxy, a transmission began to play. Human intelligence had gathered it over 50 years of patient work. It showed everything the Velthari had done. Conquered worlds burned to ash, species enslaved and worked to death, leaders executed for refusing to bow, children taken from parents to serve in Velthari households, horror after horror, documented and preserved. On Athenra Prime, the Galactic Council watched in silence. Some delegates wept. Others raged. The Velthari had always claimed their conquests were peaceful. They had always said that other species welcomed their protection. The evidence proved otherwise. Counselor Mira of the Olvani stood. Her voice was cold as ice. The Olvani withdraw all treaties with the Velthari Dominion. We call for their immediate expulsion from the Galactic Concord. Another delegate rose. Then another. Then dozens. Species that had cowered before the Velthari for centuries found their courage. The evidence was undeniable. The Velthari were monsters, and humanity had shown that monsters could bleed. The Concord votes to support humanity's military action, the council chairman announced. The Velthari Dominion stands alone.
Back at the Red Expanse, Keth received the news.
His empire was finished. His allies had abandoned him. His fleet was trapped, and the human ships surrounded him like wolves around a wounded animal. Surrender, Doyen repeated. I will not ask again. Ket's pride had always been his weakness. It would be his end. Never, he spat. I am High Sovereign of the Velthari. I do not surrender to primitives. Doyen's face did not change. Captain Lee, Commander Shin, finish it. The Eternal Vigil moved forward. Yonji coordinated the attack from the memory of Earth. Human ships closed in from every direction. Their weapons hummed with power older than empires. The first shot took out Keth's engines. The second destroyed his weapons. The third cracked his shields like glass. I am giving your crew 60 seconds to reach escape pods, Sunwoo said. Anyone still on your ship after that will share your fate. Across the Velthari fleet, soldiers abandoned their vessels. Escape pods filled the void, thousands of them drifting toward the human ships that waited to collect them. They would be prisoners, but they would live. Humanity was not interested in slaughter. They wanted justice, not genocide. Keth refused to leave his bridge. His officers begged him to go. He struck them down. He would not run. He would not surrender. He would die as high, sovereign, proud, and defiant. The 60 seconds ended. The Eternal Vigil fired one last time. The pride of Velthor came apart in a flash of light. Keth died, believing he was a hero, that history would remember him as a warrior. He was wrong. History would remember him as the fool who woke humanity from its sleep. The battle was over. 300 Velthari ships destroyed. 200 captured. No human losses. The greatest military power in the galaxy broken in a single afternoon. Commander Shin Yun-ji sat back in her chair. Her hands had stopped trembling. For 30 years, she had carried the memory of her parents' death. For 30 years, she had trained and waited and hoped. Now it was done. She did not feel joy. She did not feel triumph. She felt only a great emptiness where her anger used to be. Captain Sunwoo's voice came through the communication system. Commander Shin, are you all right? She thought about the question for a long moment. I don't know, she said honestly. I thought this would feel different. It never feels the way you expect, Sunwoo replied. Revenge is a meal that leaves you hungry. But justice takes longer to digest. Give yourself time, Admiral Doyon addressed the fleet. His voice was tired, but firm. The battle is won, but our work is not finished. The Velthari Dominion stretched across 3,000 star systems. They enslaved hundreds of species. Today, we begin the process of setting things right. He looked at the stars on his display. Somewhere out there, billions of beings were learning that their masters had been defeated. Billions of beings were waking up to a galaxy where the Velthari no longer ruled. We did not want this war, Doyen continued. We hoped it would never come. But now that it has come, we will see it through. Not for conquest. Not for empire. For all the species that suffered under Velthari rule. For all the worlds that burned. For all the people who dreamed of freedom and were told that freedom was impossible, the fleet began to move, advancing toward Velthry space. Not as invaders, but as liberators. Behind them, the wreckage of the Velthry fleet drifted in the void. A monument to the price of arrogance, Commander Shin-Young-ji watched the stars slide past. Her parents had died hoping for a better future. They would never see this day. But she would. She would see the galaxy change. She would see justice delivered. It was not enough. It could never be enough. But it was something, and sometimes something was all you could ask for. 3 months after the fall of the Velthry Dominion, the galaxy was still learning to breathe without fear. President Moon Sahi stood at the window of her office on Earth. Outside, the sky was blue and peaceful, the same sky that had watched over humanity for millions of years. But everything had changed. The secret that her ancestors had kept for 15,000 years was out. The galaxy knew what humanity truly was, and now she had to decide what humanity would become. Her aide entered the room. "Madam President, the delegations are ready." Sahi nodded and walked to the meeting chamber. Inside, representatives from 50 species waited. They had come from across the galaxy, from worlds that had been free for centuries, and worlds that had been freed only weeks ago. They came to thank humanity. They came to ask for protection, and they came because they were afraid. An elder from the Corvani spoke first. His species had been enslaved by the Velthry for 600 years. "President Moon, we owe humanity a debt we cannot repay. You have freed our people. You have given us back our worlds. But we must know what comes next. Will humanity rule the galaxy as the Velthry did?" Sahi looked at him with gentle eyes. No. The chamber stirred with surprise and relief. "Our ancestors built those ships not to conquer but to protect," Sahi continued. 15,000 years ago, they faced a choice. They could rule the galaxy with their power, or they could step back and let younger species find their own way. They chose to step back. They chose to give you a chance to build something beautiful. She paused, choosing her words carefully. "You did not build something beautiful. The Velthry rose, and others like them. Cruelty spread. Suffering grew. Our ancestors' hope was betrayed. But that does not mean we abandon their dream. It means we try again. Differently this time." Ambassador Cho Taemin stepped forward. He had been working without sleep for months, rebuilding diplomatic relationships on honest foundations. Humanity proposes a new galactic concord, one built on genuine equality and cooperation. No single species will dominate. No empire will be allowed to conquer others. Trade will be fair. Disputes will be resolved through negotiation, not war. "If someone refuses," the Corvani elder asked. "If another Velthry rises, then humanity will stop them," Sahi said simply. "Our ships will sleep in their hidden places, but they will not be forgotten. Anyone who tries to build an empire of cruelty will face them. This is our promise. Not to rule you, but to protect you. Not to control your choices, but to ensure you have choices to make." The delegations exchanged glances. It was a strange offer. Power without domination. Strength without empire. Most species could not imagine such a thing. But humans, apparently, had imagined it 15,000 years ago. And they were offering it again. On the Concord world of Athena Prime, Counselor Mira of the Olvani walked through the ancient library. She had spent weeks studying the forbidden texts, the legends of the first walkers that her people had dismissed as myth. Now she understood that the myths were memories. Twisted and faded but real, historian No Jun walked beside her. The young human woman had been given the task of restoring humanity's erased history. It was a project that would take generations. 15,000 years of records, buried in vaults across the galaxy, waiting to be brought back to light. "The oldest texts describe your people as gods," Mira said. "They say, you created the stars." June smiled. "We did not create the stars. We only traveled among them." The legends grew because people could not understand how any species could be so old. "What was it like? Your ancient civilization?" June had asked herself the same question many times. She had read the records, seen the images, studied the artifacts, but it was hard to truly understand a world that had ended so long ago. From what I can tell, it was peaceful. Our ancestors believed that cooperation was better than competition. They helped younger species grow without controlling them. They shared technology freely. They saw themselves as gardeners, not rulers. Why did they choose to disappear? June stopped walking. They had reached a window overlooking the city. Millions of beings from hundreds of species lived and worked below, unaware of the conversation happening above them. They fought a terrible war, June said. Against something from outside the galaxy? Something that wanted to destroy everything. The war lasted 3,000 years. When it was over, humanity had weapons that could crack planets and shields that could stop stars. They looked at what they had become, and they were afraid. Afraid of what? Afraid of themselves. They had built the power to rule everything, and they knew that power corrupts. They knew that someday someone in humanity might use that power wrongly. So they made a choice. They hid the ships. They erased their history. They let younger species rise, hoping that the galaxy would learn to be peaceful without humanity's shadow. Mira was quiet for a long moment. That is a great sacrifice. It was. And now we must decide if it was worth it. The galaxy did not become peaceful. The Velthari rose. Others like them rose. Cruelty spread. Our ancestors' hope was betrayed. June looked at Mira with serious eyes. But hope can be renewed. The galaxy can still become what our ancestors dreamed. We just have to help it get there. In the hidden base on Earth's moon, Admiral King Doyan walked through the great cavern where the fleet slept. The ships were powered down again, their weapons silent, their engines cold. They had done their work. Now they could rest. Captain Lee Sunwoo walked beside him. The crews are returning to their civilian lives, he reported. Another generation of secret keepers? Doyan nodded. And their children will train as our children trained. The fleet will remain ready. Sleeping, but not dead. Do you think we will need them again? The Admiral considered the question. The galaxy was changing. The Velthari were gone. New treaties were being signed. Species that had never spoken to each other were beginning to cooperate. Hope was growing like a flower after a long winter, but Doyan was old enough to know that hope was fragile. I hope not, he said. I hope this generation is the last that needs to keep the watch. I hope our grandchildren live in a galaxy where these ships are nothing but museum pieces. Reminders of a darker time. He stopped beside the Eternal Vigil. The ancient ship towered above them, its hull still gleaming with metal forged before the first Velthari drew breath. But I do not believe in hope alone, Doyan continued. I believe in preparation. The ships will stay ready. The crews will stay trained. And if someone threatens the peace, if someone tries to build another empire of cruelty, we will wake the fleet again. Not because we want to, because we must. In a vault deep beneath the earth, historian No June found the oldest record of all. It was a message preserved for 15,000 years. Waiting for the day when humanity would wake from its long sleep, she played it in the darkness, alone. A face appeared on the screen. A human woman, ancient and wise, speaking from a time before time. To our descendants, the woman said, we pray you never read this. We pray the galaxy learned kindness in our absence. But if you are here, if you have awakened the ships, then we failed. Or perhaps we did not. Perhaps you showed mercy where we could not. Perhaps you are better than us. The woman's eyes held both sadness and hope. Whatever comes next, remember what we fought for. Remember why we hid. And remember, power is not the right to rule. Power is the duty to protect. Use it wisely. Use it sparingly. And never, ever forget that the greatest strength is the strength to choose peace when war would be easier. The message ended. June sat in the darkness, thinking about the weight of 15,000 years. Her ancestors had built ships that could destroy civilizations. They had created weapons that could crack worlds. And then they had put it all away, hoping for a better future. That future was here. It was not perfect. It was not peaceful. But it could be. Humanity would help make it so, not as rulers, not as gods. As guardians, she turned off the recording and walked back into the light. Above her, the stars shone as they always had, different to the struggles of the beings beneath them. But humanity was not indifferent. Humanity watched over the galaxy now, quietly, patiently. Hopefully, and the ancient ships waited, dreaming of peace, ready for war. Holding the line between what the galaxy was and what it could become, the new dawn had begun.